where I moved in beginning of '74, I rolled into town with girlfriend and cat and pretty much everything I could fit. I'd pulled out. It was a bad situation getting out of the studio there, and I ended up not collecting anything they owed me and all that stuff. And so I sold. I had thousands of records then, and I sold a lot of them and got up enough to pay about 500 and something for a '66 Ford wagon, and had some travel money. And my girlfriend decided to go with me, and I had and her cat and stuff, some of the recording gear I hadn't sold that I owned, and headed on down the road. So rolled into Atlanta, driving like say, a '66 Ford. Now in Atlanta, then and probably now, people were mighty serious about their cars. But I lived in Chicago, where cars would all rust to hell in 6 or 8 years, and some people owned in the wintertime a thing you called a snow car. A snow car was some beater that you didn't mind if people ran into it and stuff. So because in Chicago in the wintertime, in the streets where there'd been salt and stuff and people driving, you'd develop this slush, and it could be deep. It could be inches deep, and as every new set of wheels went through it, it would cut new ruts in it, and people's feet would cut ruts. That's while the sun's on it, and as soon as the sun goes beyond the edge of a building, that stuff is solid like that, and consequently you got all these ruts and things, and they drag one car into another. So about the time that stuff freezes up, which just takes minutes, you can start hearing sounds like people hitting a garbage can with a baseball bat as different cars start banging into each other down in the street. So that's what you have a snow car for. Anyway, so my wagon was pretty much qualified as a snow car because it was a lot of lacy rust along the bottom, and it had snow tires in the back. And by the time we rolled into Atlanta, people looked at me like I was descending in a flying saucer because I had this rusty, dirty car with snow tires. It's like nobody ever saw anything like that. So it's like, anyway, made quite an impression. But I had a friend down there who talked about some things about Atlanta that sounded good, and I was with a lady who basically hated the music business. She'd grown up in it, and I was going to try not to be in the recording business. So I got into a high-end hi-fi store where I was selling things, and from that I developed a business selling equipment and system design and stuff to nightclubs, discos, basically. This was mid-'70s. Discos were it. So I was busily doing that, and didn't really like it very much, but I was trying to do the right thing, and I was down there a couple of 3 years, and got a job offer to move to Charlotte as a sales rep for audio companies. And if I was not going to be in the recording business, that kind of looked like a step up, and I didn't know where Charlotte was. Yeah. In fact, in my family, nobody had ever been through it because it wasn't really on the way to where anybody went. My family was either East Coast or Chicago or West Coast. So moved to Charlotte, and decided very quickly within a month or so that being a sales rep, even for audio equipment, was not really my gig. I was an audio guy. I understood audio. I understood sound and physics and all these things, and I thought that'd be an advantage, but they don't care. They just want to sell numbers off a sheet of paper. And so I'd pretty well spent what I had to get up to Charlotte, and I was starting to think about how long I had to tolerate this job to be able to afford to move on somewhere else. And then they called me up and said they'd sold my territory. There was no job, so oops. So I thought about it, and I thought, I liked recording. For all the problems in Chicago and all the horrible drama getting out of there, I really liked recording. But it'd been a weird development. I'd gone from kind of a self-taught live recording in the clubs hippie dude to suddenly having this fabulous workshop and associating with a guy who truly knew what he was doing. And so my development was missing a lot of pieces. I didn't think I'd really gone through the process to do what I needed to do with it. So I decided to go back into recording. So my by now wife, heard this and decided that maybe it's time for her to go back to the Colorado. So you know how that is.